Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Classical Existentialist. This is a channel where we understand before we put anything into practice in real life. That being said, this video is basically an overview of what this channel is all about. To start out, this channel is first and foremost trying to integrate Eastern and Western philosophy in order to understand existential reality and consciousness. There are many thinkers that I find valuable to me, and I would like to give a little bit of a background for myself. I live in the Georgia area in the United States, so I've grown up in a Western context. And I have a little bit of a Catholic background, particularly, or at least that's the background that I grew up in. However, later on, I started to find fascination in Western philosophy and religion, including Eastern philosophy and religion as well, based on my experiences that have happened with me. I did have some medical things that happened to me throughout my life, and we could go into a lot of detail, but that's for another time. I am a heart transplant, and I've had to deal with going on immunosuppressant medications for the rest of my life. So there have been many experiences that have shaped my worldview and obviously my bias. So by all means, don't just take my words with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, it's your experience. I only have my particular wisdom, but at the end of the day, it's a limited human wisdom that comes from one experience. So that being said, just giving you a little bit of a background, how I grew up, where I grew up, and I'm particularly about finding truth and trying to live a life that is full of wisdom. Knowledge, of course, is valuable, but when we get stuck in the petty details of when we date this, or, oh, did that philosopher get that argument exactly correctly, we can get into the unnecessary things. So it's very important to focus on the important questions, ask the right questions, and we have to respect each and every single person's human experience. So that being said, I think that Eastern and Western philosophy have some wonderful things that we can integrate. And so Western philosophy, as I've learned, can teach us a lot about how to make a proper argumentation. And, we've learned a lot of these things from philosophers such as Socrates, who has this Socratic method, asking questions. We have Aristotle, who was a student of Plato. He brought about very important ideas, putting them more into, less of an idealized framework, more of something that is, kind of more of you could say in a scientific, philosophical type of way. But again, it was within the framework of the classical Greek period. So, Western philosophy has a lot of argumentation, but that does not mean that these individuals did not practice what they taught. And I think that that is crucial to bring into the picture, because I think that in our academic institutions today, there's a lot of emphasis on their argumentation and how can we make the best argument. This can be a problem because then we get caught up in who's right, who's wrong, rather than actually experiencing those things that they were trying to argue for. So we get caught in abstract argumentation, which is not helpful. However, those thinkers help us to understand the world better and help us to rationalize things in a more grounded way. And then you have on the other side of the the you could say the philosophical map, the Eastern philosophers. Examples may be Ramana Maharshi. I'm sorry, I may trying to pronounce his name correctly. Um, Siddhartha Gautama, right, the Buddha. So, not, I'm trying to think of another one, but yeah, you have some of those other traditions like Advaita Vedanta. Uh, so, and you can take a lot from those. They do have theories. I think that they have theoretical arguments. I think that the East, just based on what we get here, at least in my context as I live in the United States, I've tended to be very involved with the practical elements of these things, such as making sure to be aware of your thoughts, not identify with those thoughts. There could be an idea in Taoism that you got to be in rhythm with nature. You got to, and realize that you're not separate from it. And there's a lot of practical elements to it when it comes to meditation. Or you may do Qigong and kind of deal with the Qi energy and move it around. I've been very exposed to some of those. But no matter what, the West and the East both have practical elements, and they have understanding elements where you study the bigger picture and what those practices do. So no, I think that this is what the channel is about, being able to integrate both of those philosophies so we have more of a whole framework. So that's what this channel is about. It's about understanding and then being able to discern for yourself what is the most practical thing you can take from those philosophers, because everyone's different and we have to respect each other and know that each approach that someone may need may be different from the other person. So it's completely fine. Hope you guys have a good day.